Have you ever had a conversation in English where someone said something really inappropriate, controversial, or shocking, and you felt really uncomfortable? What should you do in this type of situation? One way to handle it is to simply say moving on and to change the subject. Let's talk about the phrasal verb move on. First, it's pronounced move on, with stress on the particle on, move on, move on. This phrasal verb is commonly used in both personal and professional conversations in English when you want to change the subject to something else. When we move on, we continue or go on to another topic of conversation or to the next agenda item in a presentation, discussion, or meeting. We also use the phrasal verb move on when we stop talking about an inappropriate, controversial, or emotional topic and change the subject to something else. At times, it's easier to just say, let's move on and continue on to the next topic of conversation, the next agenda item, or the next point. You're not always going to fully agree with somebody about a certain topic, and it may be easier to just continue on so that you don't miss any important points. You may also want to move on if people are asking a lot of questions and you know that you're going to answer these questions later on in the presentation or later on in the discussion. So now let's look at a few examples so you can feel more confident using move on in a sentence. Now that we've come to an agreement for next year's budget, let's move on to the next item on our agenda. When a coworker brings up a controversial topic like religion or politics, it's best to move on to something more neutral. Before we move on, does anyone have any questions? What? I can't believe he just said that. Moving on. I don't think we see the issue the same way. Can we just move on? So as you can see, there are a lot of different situations where you may need to use the phrasal verb move on. It's common for people to just exclaim moving on if something embarrassing, controversial, or emotional happens and it's just not the right time or place. People often ask, can we move on? Is it possible to move on? Can we move on to the next topic? If they want to continue going and someone keeps asking the same questions or keeps trying to get them to see their point of view. As you can see, move on is a very useful phrasal verb to practice, but make sure you listen to how people use it in a sentence so it doesn't sound unnatural. Now it's your turn. Have you ever been in a conversation where you just wanted to move on? Have you ever needed to stop people from asking questions in a business meeting so that you could move on to the other important points? Leave a comment and let me know. You may also choose to use move on in a sentence. Once again, I'm Kim from EnglishWithKim.com. I'm your guide to the essential conversation skills you need to sound more natural in English. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with a friend. Have a good one. Goodbye.